The Galactic Council's chamber was vast and shining, a place where leaders of many worlds gathered to decide the fate of the galaxy. Tall, curved walls held banners of alien empires, each one telling the story of a proud and ancient race. The air was filled with quiet voices, some deep and booming, others high and sharp, all speaking in many languages at once. But when the human walked in, the voices stopped. Captain Elias was not invited to speak. He was only there as an observer. A courtesy offered because the humans had recently joined the council as a minor member. Most aliens thought humanity was too young, too reckless, too fragile to play any serious role in galactic affairs. They respected human curiosity, but not their strength. Elias could feel the cold stares on him as he took his seat in the back row. The council's high speaker, a tall insect-like being named Voreth, stood at the center and began the meeting. "We face a crisis," Voreth said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The Krith Empire has attacked 3 border worlds in the last cycle. Entire cities burned, millions dead. Still they advance." Holograms lit the air, showing images of burning worlds, ships shattered in space, and the tall, spiked warships of the Krith. Murmurs filled the room as the council leaders argued. Some wanted to negotiate. Others demanded full war, but most were afraid. The Krith were powerful, ruthless, and had never lost a war. As Elias listened, his eyes narrowed. The images were more than simple war footage. He noticed faint flickers in the transmissions, tiny patterns most would ignore. They looked like random static, but to him, they were not random at all. The flickers repeated at precise intervals, like a hidden rhythm. Elias leaned forward, his mind racing. Back on Earth, during the early space age, humans had used similar tricks to hide messages inside broadcasts. It was an old intelligence method, nearly forgotten. No one here seemed to notice except him, without drawing attention. He pulled a small scanner from his jacket and ran it over the projection. Numbers flashed on his wrist screen, coordinates. Someone inside the Krith fleet was sending out secret information, buried inside their own attack reports. Elise's heartbeat quickened. This was not something to ignore. He turned his gaze toward Voreth, who was still speaking about defensive strategies. The council was busy debating how many ships they could afford to lose, completely unaware that an invisible thread of information was passing right in front of them. He had to act fast. Elias stood. Every head in the chamber turned toward him. "High Speaker," he said calmly, "I request access to all recent Krith battle transmissions. Not the edited versions everything you have, raw and unfiltered." Voreth's antennae twitched. "Captain Elias," he replied, "you are here as a guest, not as a participant. The Council's security data is for authorized members only." Several alien leaders nodded in agreement. Few even smirked, as if amused that a human thought he could contribute. Elias kept his expression steady, but inside he was calculating. If the Krith were hiding a signal, it could mean an insider was trying to defect, or worse, that the enemy was baiting them into a trap. "With respect," Elias said, "you're missing something in those transmissions. Something important. I need to confirm it before your fleets make their next move." The chamber filled with whispers. Some wondered if this was a human bluff. Others wondered if Elias had noticed something they had not. Voreth raised one clawed hand for silence. "Denied," he said. "This meeting will proceed without interruption." Elias didn't argue. He simply sat back down, but his mind was already working. If the council wouldn't give him access, he'd find another way. His wrist screen was still glowing with the partial coordinates. It wasn't enough to pinpoint a location, but it was a start. He could send the data to Earth Command and let human intelligence do the rest. That night, long after the chamber, lights dimmed and the alien leaders retreated to their quarters, Elias sat alone in the human delegation's small office. He opened a secure channel. The screen flickered, and a stern-faced woman in a black uniform appeared. "Admiral Kane," he said quietly, "we have a situation. The Krith are hiding signals in their own battle reports. I've got partial coordinates. I need full analysis. Fast." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Understood. We'll move. Assets immediately. Keep the Council in the dark until we know more." Within hours, human stealth ships were on the move, slipping through the edge of Council space, completely invisible to their sensors. By morning, the Council would still be debating fleet positions, still arguing over whether to fight or negotiate. But far from the Great Chamber, something else was already happening. Somewhere in the void, a message was calling to humanity. Humanity was answering. Elias closed the channel and leaned back in his chair. The aliens thought they had invited a harmless guest into their halls. They had no idea they'd just let a predator into the room. The council chamber opened again the next morning, its walls glowing with soft blue light. Alien leaders took their seats, their voices low but tense. News had arrived during the night another Krith attack, this time on a small mining colony. At the edge of council space, the footage was grim. Broken domes lay scattered across the colony's dusty surface, smoke rising into the thin atmosphere. The Krith warships had come fast, destroyed everything of value, and vanished before the council fleet could arrive. The chamber filled with blame and argument. Some demanded more ships along the border. Others wanted to abandon the mining worlds entirely to save resources. No one mentioned the humans. No one suspected that. Even now, they were already moving. In a quiet corner of the chamber, Captain Elias kept his expression unreadable. Overnight, the coordinates from the hidden Krith signal had been sent to Earth Command. The response had come faster than he expected. The partial numbers matched a location on the edge of a little-known trade route, one the Krith shouldn't have known about. It was a perfect place for an ambush, or for a meeting in deep space. While the council debated, Ilias's personal communicator buzzed once, a silent signal. He didn't check it. He didn't need to. That single buzz meant human ships were already in position. The council's high speaker Vorath pounded the floor with his clawed staff, demanding order. "We cannot protect every rock in the void," he shouted. "If the Krith want the fringe, let them take it. Better to guard our core worlds." A few leaders nodded in agreement, others hissed in outrage. None of them noticed the faint smile at the corner of Ilias's mouth. While the council continued to argue over strategy, the human task force reached the mining colony's remains. The alien survivors they found were terrified, certain the Krith would return. But they spoke of something strange, of shapes in the sky, huge and silent, moving faster than anything they had ever seen. And when the Krith ships did return to finish the job, the survivors saw the sky light up. Were no long-range weapons exchanges, no slow duels like the council fleets fought. The human ships struck fast, cutting across the enemy formation with impossible precision. Railgun fire ripped through Krith hulls before their shields could even rise. In less than 3 minutes, it was over. The surviving Krith ships fled into the void. The survivors stood in stunned silence, unsure whether they had just been saved, or simply overlooked by a new and more dangerous predator. Back in the council chamber, Vorath announced the good news that the Krith had mysteriously withdrawn from the mining colony, claimed it was proof the council's presence in the sector was enough to deter further attacks. Elias did not correct him, but his eyes were on the live feed now streaming to his wrist screen. It showed something the council would never see: human soldiers boarding the last damaged Krith warship instead of destroying it. They were moving through its corridors with deliberate care, cutting into locked compartments, scanning systems, and taking something from deep inside the enemy vessel. Whatever it was important enough that Elias knew the council must never hear about it until the time was right. When the meeting ended, a fellow delegate, a bird-like alien named Rinith, approached Elias. "Strange, isn't it?" Rinith said, tilting his head. "The Krith leaving so quickly. It's almost as if someone frightened them off." Elias gave a short, humorless smile. "Maybe they saw something they didn't understand," he said quietly. Rinith blinked, unsure. If it was a joke, Elias simply walked away. In the quiet corridors beyond the chamber, he opened another secure channel to Earth Command. "We have the package," came the voice of a human operative on the captured Krith ship, awaiting transport. Elias allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Council still believed humanity was small, unimportant. But that illusion wouldn't last forever. The moment the Krith realized what had been taken from them, the galaxy would change. and the Council would finally learn what kind of ally humanity really was. The Council's intelligence network had been restless for days. Reports kept appearing on secure channels, short bursts of data about faint drive signatures in deep space, patterns that did not match any known fleet. At first, the Council thought they were errors, the result of faulty sensors. But the sightings grew more frequent, always vanishing before anyone could get close enough to investigate. In the main chamber, the topic came up again. Some leaders insisted the signals were simply pirate vessels. Others thought they were Krith scouts. But one voice in the room stayed silent. Captain Elias sat with his hands folded, watching the argument unfold. He already knew the truth. Unknown drive signatures were human ships, moving in ways the Council's tracking systems couldn't follow. Humanity had learned long ago to fly under the notice of enemies who were bigger and stronger. It was a skill they had perfected long before joining the Council, and one they had never shared. A thin, nervous delegate from the Celery Republic approached Elias during a recess. His large eyes flicked around the room before he leaned close. "Tell me something, human," he whispered. "Do you know who these shadows in the void belong to?" Elias met his gaze, calm and unblinking. "You asked us here as guests," he said quietly. "You'll know when you need to know." The Solari frowned, unsure if it was a warning or a promise. Far from the chamber, in the dark edges of the galaxy, one of those human shadows closed in on a crippled Krith destroyer. The ship had been drifting for hours, badly damaged in a recent skirmish with a rival fleet. To anyone else, it looked like a wreck not worth the effort. But the human task force had other plans. They didn't just destroy Krith ships, they took them. A boarding team of black armored soldiers cut into the destroyer's hull, their movements sharp and methodical. No words were spoken over the comms, only hand signals and short bursts of light from helmet lamps. The corridors were littered with debris and the bodies of fallen Krith warriors. But deeper inside, in the command core, something pulsed faintly. Storage unit unlike anything the humans had seen before. It was locked behind layers of alien security, glowing with an unnatural blue light. Without hesitation, the human team dismantled the security field, pulled the unit free, and carried it back to their ship. From orbit, the crippled destroyer finally exploded, its remains scattering into the void. Back in the Council chamber, the news arrived hours later. The Krith destroyer had been lost to internal reactor failure before the Council could reach it. Most dismissed it as good fortune, one less enemy ship to fight. Only a few noticed Elias glance down at his wrist screen, reading a silent update from the boarding team. The device had been secured. Analysis was underway. That night, Elias reviewed the first decrypted images from the storage unit. It wasn't a weapon. It was something far more dangerous, a map. Not just any map, but a detailed chart of hidden supply routes and deep space caches the Krith used to move their war fleets undetected. With this information, humanity could strike the Krith before they even reached their targets. If the Council had it, they would know too much about what humanity was capable of. Elias sent a single coded message back to Earth Command. "We hold the knife. The Council does not need to see it yet." In the darkness of his quarters, Elias allowed himself a slow breath. The Council thought they were fighting a war against the Krith, together. In reality, they were only seeing the surface. The real war, the one humanity was already winning, was being fought in the shadows where no Council eyes could reach. Soon the Krith would realize someone had cut into the heart of their war machine, and when they struck back, the galaxy would finally learn that humanity had been holding back all along. The Council chamber was in chaos before the meeting even began. Messengers rushed between delegates, carrying reports of an attack unlike any before. The Krith had unveiled a new weapona, Planet Burner. It wasn't just a massive ship or a siege device. It was a system-wide terror, able to ignite a planet's surface atmosphere and turn entire continents into rolling seas of fire within hours. The first world hit was a small agricultural colony, and there had been no time to evacuate. Billions were dead. Holograms of the disaster flickered in the chamber, showing forests and cities alike swallowed by burning storms. The air was thick, with outrage, fear, and desperation. No one had expected the Krith to escalate so far, so fast. Some council members shouted for an immediate counterattack. Others begged for negotiation before more worlds were lost. But all their strategies felt like panic, not plans. At the far end of the chamber, Captain Elias watched, saying nothing, his expression unreadable. He knew panic would only make the Krith bolder. And he also knew something the Council did not. Humanity already had a counterplan. It would be risky, costly, and it would mean revealing abilities they had kept hidden for decades. But the alternative was letting the Krith burn the galaxy piece by piece. Elias stood slowly. The voices in the chamber quieted not out of respect, but surprised that a human dared to interrupt. "You can't fight this weapon the way you fight everything else," Elias said evenly. "You can't chase it. You can't outgun it. Have to stop it before it arrives. And we can." Vorath, the High Speaker, clicked his mandibles in irritation. "Captain Elias, we have indulged your interruptions before. You are not authorized to dictate Council fleet movements." Elias's voice stayed calm. "I'm not asking. I'm offering you one chance to stop them. But if you want it, you hand over full control of the defense to humanity. We choose the targets. We move the fleets. No committees. No votes. You either trust us, or you watch more worlds burn." The reaction was immediate and violent. Some leaders shouted in outrage. Others laughed at the absurdity of trusting a young species with the defense of the galaxy. A few stared at Elias in silence, remembering the strange survival of the mining colony, the mysterious vanishing of a Krith destroyer. Slowly, the argument shifted from disbelief to bitter necessity. After hours of debate, the vote came. The decision was razor-thin, but the Council gave him the authority. In that moment, Elias's calm mask cracked just enough for the smallest glimmer of satisfaction to show. Within minutes of the meeting ending, human ships began appearing where no one thought they could. The Council fleets were still redeploying when reports came in of Krith supply convoys disappearing into silent wreckage, or escorts destroyed before they could fire a shot. Human stealth squadrons were already intercepting targets deep inside Krith territory, crippling fuel depots, and cutting communication relays. The Krith's planet burner would soon need to resupply, and when it did, humanity would be waiting. That night, Elias stood alone in the observation deck of the human flagship. Watching the stars shift as the fleet moved into position, Council believed they had just given humanity temporary control of the war effort. What they didn't realize was that humanity had never needed permission in the first place. They had been preparing for this moment from the day they joined the Council. And when the Krith's greatest weapon finally showed itself, Elias intended to destroy it. In a way that would make sure the galaxy never forgot who had done it. The Krith planet burner entered Council space under a curtain of darkness, its colossal frame blotting out the stars as it drifted toward its next target. The ship was more fortress than vessel, covered in spines and armor plating, so thick it could shrug off the combined firepower of entire fleets. Inside its core, an unstable fusion system waited to be unleashed, ready to ignite a planet's atmosphere in hours. The Krith were confident and touchable. They expected the usual, a desperate, scattered Council defense, arriving too late. What they didn't expect was to find the sky already full of war machines. As the planet burner emerged from faster-than-light travel, hundreds of small, sharp silhouettes shifted in the void around it. Human ships sleek, black, and silent moved like predators circling a kill. No formal challenge was issued, no demands made.
Ow.
The attack began instantly. Eljone's slug slammed into the Krith's forward shielding, punching deep enough to shake the entire ship. Stealth drones slipped in close, vanishing mid-maneuver only to reappear on the far side of the armor, cutting through sections of plating with precision charges. Council fleets had never moved like this. There was no hesitation, no waiting for orders.
Guys.
Every motion was coordinated, as if the ships shared a single mind. From the planet burner's bridge, Krith commanders barked orders. But their targeting systems kept locking onto empty space. Human decoy pods were scrambling every scan, making it impossible to tell which threats were real. Then the boarding Pods came. Dozens of them launched from human destroyers, slamming into the planet burner's hull like meteor impacts. They didn't go for the weapons. They went for the ship's control heart. Black-armored soldiers poured out, moving with lethal precision through corridors filled with smoke and fire. They fought without the drawn-out exchanges the Council's ground troops were used to. Every shot was a kill, every blade strike fatal. Elias watched the battle unfold from the bridge of his flagship, his voice steady as he directed squads to weak points only humans seemed to know existed. The Krith fought like cornered animals, their roars echoing through the ship's comms. But the boarding teams never slowed. Deep inside the planet burner, a breach team reached the core chamber. The massive fusion igniter pulsed like a beating heart, surrounded by thick conduits. Charges were placed, timers set. But this wasn't just about destruction humans intended. To take parts of the weapons control systems intact. If they could understand how the planet burner worked, they could ensure no enemy ever built one again. Outside, the Krith fleet finally attempted to break the siege, arriving in waves to defend their superweapon. They expected to scatter the humans easily. Instead, the reinforcements found themselves cut apart before they could even form proper formations. Human gunships tore through them at close range, slipping between capital ships and striking engines, leaving their prey drifting and helpless. The sky above the target planet burned with the wreckage of Krith ships. In the planet burner's core, the detonators went off. A blinding light tore through the ship, shredding its systems from within. The massive vessels shuddered, broke apart, and then exploded in a silent flash that lit the void for seconds. On the Council's live war feeds, the destruction appeared sudden and decisive. But the Council didn't see what happened in the final moments before the explosion, how several human shuttles left the doomed ship, carrying stolen components and data. Back in the chamber hours later, alien delegates cheered the planet burner's destruction, calling it a turning point in the war. Elias accepted their praise with a polite nod, but said little. In truth, humanity had gained more than just a victory. They had taken the enemy's secrets. And when the time came, those secrets would give humanity the edge to end this war on their terms. The captured Krith leader was brought into the council chamber in chains, flanked by 2 towering human soldiers whose armor was still marked with scorch burns from the battle. The alien's spiked frame hunched low, not from injury but from the weight of defeat. His eyes burned with hate, yet there was a flicker of something else wariness. The chamber was silent as the council gathered, their banners swaying gently in the recycled air. Every delegate had come to witness this moment, to look into the face of the war that had nearly consumed them. At the center of the room, Captain Elias stood with his hands behind his back, watching the Krith leader without speaking. The High Speaker Vorath began the formal questioning, demanding to know why the Krith had chosen to escalate their war, why they had deployed a planet burner, and who within their empire had been sending coded transmissions. The Krith leader gave no answers, only a cruel smile. "You think you have one?" he hissed, his voice rough like grinding stone. "But you do not even understand what you have awakened." His gaze shifted toward Elias. "It was you, human. Your kind fights like nothing we have faced. You do not retreat, do not hesitate. You take what you want." Several council members shifted uncomfortably at the words, as if the enemy had spoken aloud what they feared to think. Elias didn't respond to the accusation. Instead, he stepped forward and spoke clearly so all could hear. "We never stopped preparing. From the moment humanity joined this council, we learned your systems, your methods, your limits. We saw how slowly you moved, how much time you wasted on speeches while enemies grew stronger. We decided we would not wait for permission to act." The chamber was utterly still. Some delegates looked at him with awe, others with unease. Elias continued, "The Krith are finished. Their supply lines are broken. Their fleets are scattered. If they try to rise again, we will be there before they can take their first step." He turned to the High Speaker. "Humanity will accept a permanent seat on this council, equal to the founding members. But we will not take command of you. We will fight beside you, not above you. If you want our strength, it will be as allies, not masters." There was a long pause before Vorath gave a slow nod. The vote was swift, and for the first time in history, A young species from the edge of the galaxy stood as an equal among the ancient powers. As the chamber emptied, Elias glanced once more at the captured Krith leader. The alien bared his teeth in a final glare, but there was something different now. Fear. Not fear of defeat, but of what humanity might become. Outside the human, Fleet prepared to return home. The war was not over, but the galaxy had changed. The Council had seen the weapons, the precision, and the will of humanity. Yet the true strength they had witnessed was not in firepower, but in resolve, the unshakable decision to protect those who could not protect themselves, no matter the cost. And though the Council did not yet realize it, that was the kind of strength that could reshape the stars.